Dave retired at 63, spent 35 years in the same house, same neighborhood, same state, coached Little League in that town, knew every neighbor by name, watched his kids grow up on those streets. 18 months after retirement, he was gone. Not because he wanted to leave, because he couldn't afford to stay. His property taxes alone had gone up $4,000 in 3 years. His heating bills were climbing every winter, and his fixed income, the one he'd planned so carefully, was shrinking in real value every single month. Dave is not alone. In fact, he's part of the fastest-growing trend in American retirement right now. Over 600,000 retirees relocated out of their home states last year, not for adventure, not to be closer to grandkids, but because the state they trusted was quietly working against them. Today we're counting down the 10 states where this is happening fastest. And if you're retired, approaching retirement, or helping someone you love plan their next chapter, what you're about to hear could save you tens of thousands of dollars. Stay until the end, because number 1 on this list is one that surprises almost everyone. Let's get into it. Number 10. Minnesota, 1 o'clock. Minnesota sounds like the kind of place where you could settle down quietly and enjoy your retirement in peace. Clean lakes, friendly people, a slower pace of life. And for a long time, it was exactly that. But the numbers tell a very different story now. Minnesota has one of the highest income tax rates in the entire country, topping out at 9.85%. And here's what catches most retirees completely off guard. Social Security income is partially taxable here. The money you spent your entire working life paying into, the state takes a cut of it in retirement. Winters are brutal in ways that go beyond just being cold. We're talking months of temperatures in the single digits, heating bills that run $300 to $500 a month from November straight through March. Icy roads that make simple errands genuinely dangerous for older adults. And the healthcare picture is getting worse. Rural clinics are closing. Specialists are consolidating into larger cities. Retirees in small towns are finding themselves driving 60, 70, even 90 miles for routine medical appointments that used to be 10 minutes away. Between 2020 and 2023, Minnesota saw more retirees leave than arrive. Most of them headed south, to Tennessee, the Carolinas, and Florida, chasing lower taxes, warmer winters, and a cost of living that actually made sense on a fixed income. Minnesota isn't a bad state, but for retirees watching every dollar, the math just doesn't add up anymore. Number 9. Connecticut, 4 o'clock. Connecticut was once considered one of the most desirable addresses in America. Gorgeous coastline, historic towns, proximity to New York and Boston, a sense of quiet, established wealth that made it feel like the right place to settle down. And if you have unlimited money, it still is. But for the average retiree on a fixed income, Connecticut has become a financial trap that's incredibly hard to escape once you're in it. Property taxes here are among the highest in the nation. The average homeowner pays over $6,000 a year. In towns near Hartford or along the shoreline, that number climbs well past $10,000, $12,000, even $15,000 annually. Think about what that means for someone living on Social Security and a modest pension. You might own your home free and clear, no mortgage, no debt, and still be writing a check for over $1,000 every single month just to stay in it. The overall cost of living sits about 20% above the national average. Groceries, utilities, car insurance, home maintenance, everything costs more here than in most of the country. And here's something that doesn't show up in the tax tables, but matters enormously to quality of life. Connecticut has been losing population for years. Businesses close, young people leave, communities slowly hollow out. When your neighbors start disappearing, when the local diner shuts down, When the pharmacist you've known for 20 years retires and nobody replaces him, retirement starts to feel lonelier in ways you never planned for. Most retirees who leave Connecticut say the same thing. They wish they'd done it 5 years earlier. Number 8. Illinois, 7 o'clock. There's a reason Illinois consistently sits at the top of every outbound migration list in the country, and it comes down to one number: 2.3%. That's the average effective property tax rate in Illinois on a $300,000 home, which isn't even particularly large or luxurious. That's nearly $7,000 a year in property taxes. In the Chicago suburbs, it regularly runs much higher. Now, here's the part that confuses people when they first look at Illinois retirement taxes. The state actually exempts Social Security and most pension income from state income tax. So on paper, it sounds like a retirement-friendly place. But property taxes don't care about your income. They don't care if you're on a fixed budget. They don't care that you paid off your mortgage 20 years ago. They show up every year, and they keep going up. Illinois is carrying one of the largest pension funding gaps of any state in America. That debt has to be paid somehow, and property taxes are the primary answer. For retirees who own their homes, this is the silent retirement killer. You don't realize how serious it is until you're sitting at your kitchen table doing the math and realizing that your property taxes alone are eating through your savings month after month. Add in severe winters, rising crime in many urban areas, and a state government that has struggled for years to get its financial house in order, and the picture becomes clear. Illinois lost over 500,000 residents between 2020 and 2023. A significant and growing share of those were retirees. Most went to Florida, Texas, and Tennessee, and most say they feel immediate financial relief after the move. Number 7. New Jersey, 10 o'clock. New Jersey holds a record nobody wants. Year after year, it ranks as one of the top states for outbound migration in the entire country, and retirees are leading the way out. The reason is simple, and it hits harder in New Jersey than almost anywhere else: property taxes. The average New Jersey homeowner pays over $9,000 a year in property taxes. In the wealthy suburbs surrounding New York City, towns like Short Hills, Ridgewood, or Westfield, annual property tax bills of $15,000 to $20,000 are completely normal. For someone who spent their career in New Jersey, bought a home, raised a family, this worked when 2 incomes were coming in. But in retirement, on a fixed income, that same home becomes an anchor that drags you down financially every single year. The state does exempt Social Security from income tax, and there are some pension exclusions available, but the overall tax burden is so heavy that those exemptions barely make a dent for most retirees. Auto insurance in New Jersey is the second highest in the nation. Utilities run above the national average, and the cost of basic services, everything from plumbing to lawn care to home health care, reflects the elevated cost of doing business in one of the most expensive labor markets in America. The pattern is consistent. Retirees spend their careers in New Jersey for the proximity to New York, for the opportunity, for the community they've built. Then they retire, and within 2 or 3 years, they realize they don't need that proximity anymore, and they leave. Where do they go? Florida is the #1 destination, then Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and South Carolina. Most report cutting their annual living expenses by 30 to 40% after the move. Number 6. California, 1,300. California needs no introduction when it comes to cost of living, but the retirement picture there is more complicated and more alarming than most people realize. California has a progressive income tax that tops out at 13.3%, the highest state income tax rate in the country. And unlike some other high-tax states, California taxes all forms of retirement income, including pension income, at full rates. Social Security is the one exception. California does not tax Social Security benefits. But for retirees who have 401k income, pension income, or are drawing from retirement accounts, the state tax burden can be severe. Then there's housing. Even in areas of California that feel modest and rural compared to Los Angeles or San Francisco, housing costs are dramatically above national averages. Property taxes are actually kept relatively low by Proposition 13 for long-term homeowners. But for anyone looking to downsize, relocate within the state, or help a family member find housing, the market is brutal. Utility costs in California, especially electricity, have risen sharply in recent years. Wildfires are a genuine and growing risk for retirees in rural and suburban areas. Home insurance has become increasingly difficult to obtain in many parts of the state, with major insurers pulling out of entire regions, and the overall cost of healthcare, groceries, and basic services reflects a state where the cost of doing business is among the highest in the nation. The data tells the story clearly. California has seen significant net outbound migration for several consecutive years. The destinations: Texas, Arizona, Nevada, and Florida, all of which offer no state income tax and dramatically lower costs of living. Number 5. New York. For millions of Americans, New York City represents the pinnacle of ambition, culture, and possibility. But retirement in New York, whether in the city or the state, is a different story entirely. New York State has the second highest overall tax burden in the country. The state income tax rate reaches 10.9% at the top bracket. New York City adds its own income tax on top of that, pushing combined rates higher than almost anywhere in America. Here's one bright spot. New York does exempt Social Security from state income tax, and government pension income receives favorable treatment. But private sector retirees drawing from 401ks, IRAs, and investment accounts face significant state tax exposure. Property taxes outside of New York City are among the highest in the nation. Counties in the Hudson Valley, Long Island, and upstate New York regularly post effective tax rates that rival or exceed New Jersey. The cost of living in the New York metro area is so well documented, it barely needs explanation. But what surprises many retirees is how expensive upstate New York has become. Areas that once offered an affordable alternative to the city have seen costs rise substantially over the past decade. Healthcare costs are elevated. Winters in upstate New York are long and severe. And for retirees who no longer need to be near the cultural and professional opportunities that made New York worth the cost, the calculation changes completely. The outbound migration numbers from New York have been dramatic for years. Florida remains the top destination, followed by the Carolinas, Pennsylvania, and Tennessee. Many former New Yorkers report feeling like they got a significant raise simply by relocating. Number 4. Maryland. Maryland sits in a unique and uncomfortable position, expensive enough to feel the pressure, but without the name recognition of New York or California to explain why. The state income tax runs up to 5.75% at the state level. But then, counties add their own income taxes on top, pushing the combined rate to 8% or higher in many parts of the state. Retirement income receives mixed treatment in Maryland. Social Security is exempt for lower-income retirees, but taxed for those above certain thresholds. Military and some government pensions receive exclusions. But most private sector retirees find their income substantially taxed. Property taxes vary significantly by county, but the overall cost of living, driven by proximity to Washington, D.C. and the Baltimore metro area, is consistently above the national average. Housing costs, healthcare, and services all reflect the elevated cost of the Mid-Atlantic region. Traffic and congestion in the Baltimore-Washington corridor are among the worst in the country, a quality of life issue that becomes more significant in retirement, when medical appointments, family visits, and everyday errands consume more of your time. Maryland does have genuine strengths: proximity to world-class medical centers, cultural amenities, and beautiful scenery in the Western Mountains and Eastern Shore. But for retirees watching their budget carefully, those advantages often can't justify the cost. The trend is clear. Retirees are leaving Maryland for lower-cost states in the South and Southwest at an accelerating pace. Number 3. Massachusetts, 2030. Massachusetts consistently ranks as one of the most expensive states in the country, and the retirement math here is particularly challenging. The state has a flat income tax rate of 5%, which sounds moderate until you layer in the high cost of living across virtually every category. Housing costs in the greater Boston area are among the highest in the nation. Even in mid-sized Massachusetts cities and suburban towns, home prices and rental rates far exceed national averages. Healthcare, despite Massachusetts having a strong hospital system, is expensive out of pocket. Prescription drug costs, supplemental insurance premiums, and out-of-pocket expenses add up significantly for retirees on fixed incomes. Property taxes in many Massachusetts communities are substantial, and the overall cost of utilities, groceries, home maintenance, and services reflects a state with high labor costs and high cost of doing business. Winters in Massachusetts are long, cold, and unpredictable, a quality of life factor that weighs more heavily as people age and mobility becomes more of a concern. Massachusetts does offer a strong cultural environment, excellent healthcare access in urban areas, and a general quality of life that many residents value highly. But for retirees who are budget conscious and no longer tied to the job market, the cost-benefit equation has shifted. Outbound migration from Massachusetts has been steady, with retirees gravitating toward Florida, New Hampshire, Maine, and the Carolinas. Number 2. Hawaii, 2230. Hawaii feels like a retirement dream, and that dream is exactly what makes it so dangerous for retirees who haven't looked at the actual numbers. Yes, the weather is extraordinary. The scenery is unlike anywhere else in the United States. The pace of life is slower, the culture is rich, and the idea of retiring in paradise is genuinely appealing. But the financial reality of living in Hawaii is one of the harshest in America. The cost of living in Hawaii is the highest of any state in the country, roughly 88% above the national average when you account for housing, food, utilities, and transportation. Groceries alone run 60 to 70% higher than the mainland average. Nearly everything is shipped in, and you pay for it. A simple trip to the grocery store that costs $150 on the mainland can easily run $240 to $260 in Hawaii. Electricity costs in Hawaii are the highest in the nation by a significant margin, often 3 to 4 times the national average rate per kilowatt hour. Housing is extraordinarily expensive, even in areas that feel modest compared to the iconic resort destinations. Renting or buying on a fixed retirement income in Hawaii requires either significant wealth or a willingness to accept very tight financial constraints. Healthcare access is another concern. Specialty care that is routine on the mainland can require travel and significant coordination in Hawaii. And here's the reality that breaks the retirement dream most often. Many retirees who move to Hawaii find themselves cut off from family and friends on the mainland in ways they didn't anticipate. A flight back to see grandchildren, attend a family event, or deal with a family health crisis costs $400 to $800 or more every time. Hawaii is extraordinary, but for most retirees on fixed incomes, it belongs on the vision board, not the retirement plan. Number 1. Alaska. Number 1 on our list surprises almost everyone because Alaska has a feature that sounds like a retiree's dream. Alaska has no state income tax, no state sales tax, and every resident receives an annual dividend check, the permanent fund. Dividend, simply for living there. In recent years, that check has run between $1,000 and $3,000 per person. So why is Alaska number 1 on a list of states retirees are fleeing? Because the cost of living in Alaska is brutal in ways the dividend check can't come close to covering. Alaska is the most expensive state in America for groceries. A gallon of milk in rural Alaska can cost $8 to $10. Basic food staples cost 30 to 60% more than the national average, and in remote communities, significantly more. Heating costs in Alaska are not a seasonal inconvenience. They are a year-round financial burden. In interior Alaska, heating fuel can cost thousands of dollars per month during the coldest stretches. Even in Anchorage, the most temperate major city, winter heating bills are severe. Healthcare access in Alaska is the most serious retirement concern of all. Outside of Anchorage, specialist care is extremely limited. Many Alaskans with serious medical conditions must fly to Seattle or other mainland cities for treatment, a cost and logistical burden that becomes increasingly unsustainable as health needs grow in retirement. The isolation is profound. Alaska is extraordinary for those who love the outdoors, the wilderness, the independence. But for retirees who need to be near family, who rely on regular medical care, who want access to cultural amenities and community, Alaska is among the most challenging places in America to age. The retirees leaving Alaska aren't leaving because they don't love it. Many of them love it deeply. They're leaving because the practical realities of aging there, the medical access, the costs, the distance from family, eventually make it impossible to stay. So there you have it, the 10 states where retirees are leaving at record rates, and the real financial and practical reasons behind each one. Now here's the most important thing to take away from all of this. This isn't about which states are bad. Every single state on this list has real strengths, real communities, real reasons people love living there. This is about one thing: whether those strengths outweigh the financial reality of living there on a fixed retirement income. And for hundreds of thousands of retirees every year, they don't. If you found this helpful, we're going to be doing a lot more of this on State Report. Honest, data-driven looks at where to retire, where to avoid, and how to protect the retirement you've worked your entire life to build. Hit subscribe so you don't miss it. And if you're curious which states retirees are actually moving to, that video is coming next. We'll see you there.